Elevate yourself. Empower others. Welcome to Coach Approach Podcast. Steffanie, welcome to the Coach Approach Podcast.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
What stood out to me is that your story isn't linear. It's creative, it's personal, and very human. And I think that's why your brand feels alive. You started as an artist at 14, airbrushing shirts. What did that early creative identity teach you about expression and work?
I think more than anything, it really taught me that you can follow a path of something that you're passionate about, something that you love, and something that makes you happy. And you can turn it into a career. You can turn it into a way to make money and make a living.
Can you tell me how did becoming a young mom shape your relationship with responsibility, ambition, and independence?
Oh, I mean, I think that it's made me who I am for sure. You go very quickly from being a child to being a mom, and it's like, okay, I've got to figure out how I'm going to make this happen. And so I quickly went from, wanting to be an artist, which, it's usually a struggle, to finding, something else that kind of fit in the holistic, still somewhat creative. So I actually started as a massage therapist. I'll
Mhm.
tell you the story is that I was cleaning houses and listening to the radio. People still listen to the regular radio, and I heard this commercial, and it was like, "Do you want to make $50 an hour in 6 months?" And I was like, "Yes, yes, I do. In fact, I really need to." So I called like immediately. I got into this program, and I loved it. I think the body is a beautiful thing, and it is kind of a work of art. And so getting into the study of anatomy and physiology, at that point it was very kind of flat as far as massage goes. It's like you're looking at the body as a very basic, not really looking at movement, but just anatomical positions and muscles, and learning about the origins and the insertions of everything. And yeah, I fell in love with it. I excelled, which I was never much of a student, but suddenly I was like, oh, like if you do something that you really enjoy, you're going to excel. Where math, not so much.
So that was the moment when, I suppose, that was the moment when you first realized movement could be more than exercise, that it could be a
Oh, yeah,
language or art form, right?
absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I also realized that, I very early on, I was like, obviously I was a bit of a rebel and a little bit of a, kind of off the beaten path person. And so it was also a way to always, be my own boss. I've never had, I think I worked at Marshall Fields. I worked at a department store when I was about 16, and that was the last time I had like a traditional job.
And looking back, what part of your younger self is still present in how you lead today?
I'd like to think a lot of it. Sometimes I look at I'm about to have a birthday, and it's like, wait a minute, like my daughter is, 10 years younger than I was, older than I was when I had her now, and I'm just going, but I'm still that young person. But I think part of it is just, it's living healthy, having a lifestyle of, health and wellness, but also just having something that, I love getting up every day. I love coming to work every day. I walk in here and I don't turn the lights on because we start classes at 5 a.m. and I don't do those. But, I walk in and it's just like this every day I get to come in and just go, this is my life. This is what I do to pay my bills. And God, like how blessed am I?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And that whole energy, people around you is energizing even more, I suppose. So when we talk about your method, three core method, what I respect is that you didn't just open a studio, you build a method. So
Mhm.
why was it important for you to combine strength, cardio, mobility, and Pilates instead of following a single fitness trend?
Um, because I really found that kind of the basis behind our method is endurance, strength, and mobility, all in a 1 hour session or a 50-minute session. And I started, like I said, I started with massage. I went into teaching Pilates, but I was always athletic myself. I always did strength training, and I also, just combined everything. And I just found that, Pilates people were like, well, I just want to do Pilates. And it's like, but you need a strength train. You need to lift weights. For women especially, like they tend to want to stay away from weightlifting. And it's like, no, that's such an important part of keeping your muscles healthy, keeping your joints healthy. So I started kind of training that method with my personal training clients. I've had personal training clients, some of them I've been with for almost 22, 23 years. But using that method just on that one-on-one basis and just seeing the amazing results that I was getting, it was like, they were strong, but they were mobile. They were maintaining lean muscle mass while, still staying in a healthy movement pattern. And they complement each other. You get stronger muscularly through strength training, and that makes your Pilates practice better. But at the same time, that understanding of control and movement and that mind body connection that you get from Pilates is going to make you a much better Olympic weightlifter. That was one of my favorite weightlifting techniques. And it's like, because it is very much full body technique. And it's like, no, you have to understand your body. You're not just, doing this very basic movement. So I like the idea of like these compound things that you really have to like think about and not just, read a magazine while you walk on a treadmill or something. Because I think it is very much, the body has a very innate ability to heal itself if you give it the right environment. And I think that's
Mhm.
really what the method is about, is like not only teaching people how to be strong and exercise, but it's like, no, it's actually like a healing method to keep your body balanced and healthy and functioning well, not just now, but, forever. I try to tell my clients like exercise is not about what you look like now. It's a good side effect, but it's like, it's about being able to, carry a case of water up the stairs or pick up your
Mm.
get up and down off the floor, like just those functional things that are going to keep you
Functional things.
upright and towards the end of life, you got to build it now.
Yeah, 100%. Can you tell me what problem were you seeing in the fitness industry that 3Core was created to solve?
Um, when I came up with Tricor, it was right kind of at the beginning of that like boutique fitness movement where people were kind of leaving the bigger box gyms and they were going towards more instructor-led group fitness, more kind of specific type movement practices. But what I found is that people were leaving, the big box gyms, and then they were like, oh, but now I have to have a spin membership and I have to have a yoga membership. And then I go over here for this and I go over here for that. And suddenly it's like, I'm going to six different gyms to get what I need. And so,
Mm.
the idea behind the Tricor method was like, no, this is a one-stop shop. You get the endurance, strength, and mobility in one place. It's always a very different program. So, every day the workout's a little bit different. We use a bunch of different pieces of equipment, and then you always end the program with Pilates so that you're always getting that built-in recovery. Because I did a lot of group fitness classes where it's just like, you finish the workout, your heart's racing, and they're like, okay, little stretch, touch your toes. All right, you're gone. And it's like I just don't feel like I haven't come down yet. And so the idea behind the method is like you come in, we warm up, we kind of take you into this peak of your workout, but by the time you leave, like your nervous system has been reset, your whole body has been reset, your heart rate's back down, and you're just kind of in this space of hopefully some level of euphoria.
Yeah. For how long are you doing that cold part of training, like calming down after the training?
That was always part of the program. So we initially started doing Tricor as a program in my first studio. So I had a studio called De La Fit, and it was mostly personal training, and we were trying to find a way to, bring this method to group fitness. And so we launched the Tricor program inside of that studio. And so it was always part of the program was Pilates, was always that come down. And I learned that I did a yoga training years ago, and they really talked about this kind of pyramid of training. And it was the idea of, you start here, you kind of hit that peak in the middle of class, and then you come back down. And I really liked that theory and that method. And so I pulled that into, creating the program.
How do you think about movement as both performance and self-expression?
Oh, I think it's especially Pilates is very much self-expression. It's the way you program classes, the way you move, the way you understand how, my left foot is related to my right hand. It's very beautiful to see somebody who moves well, and it's nice to be able to, I would say, it's, especially teaching a Pilates class, you're kind of like a conductor, and it's like, how well am I communicating this? Because I want to see everybody move in the way that I and understand, where it's like, okay, if you push from here, you reach from here, all of a sudden it's like the whole body is working together. And so
Mm.
that's always been something that I found fascinating. And I think that kind of carried over from my massage therapy, education and understanding, is like, your fascial system is all connected. It's not like, we're just going to work this one piece of the body. It's like, no, let's understand how it's all related.
Yes, after I did my Pilates, I felt like mentally, I felt more connected with myself, more calm. So I want to ask you, what kind of transformation do clients experience beyond physical results?
I think just that. I think it's really teaching them uh how to just disconnect and how to just be present in their body, because it's a lot of control and a lot of balance, where it's like, if you're not connected to what you're doing, you're more likely to get injured. And so that's kind of a conversation I have at the beginning of every class, where it's just like, hey, like, you're here for the next 55 minutes, like, dedicate that time to being present in your body, being present with yourself, like, leave all of that stuff that you've got going on in life outside. And it's a I feel like it kind of aligns with a yoga methodology, but with a little more athleticism, I would say. Not that I'm saying anything bad about yoga, but just having that outside resistance and a little bit more strength component to it. But it's still the same mind body connection. And it really is a conversation of just being present in your body. Pilates is really aligns with breath work. And so that really helps people connect to staying focused in your body. Is, we align movements with your inhale, your exhale. It helps pace the movement. So it's really, to do Pilates properly, you really have to be present in what you're doing and really aware of what's happening in yourself, not just around you.
Yeah, and that's a big quality and skill to have in everyday
Hmm.
life.
Hmm.
Uh, Tricore doesn't feel transactional. It feels like a community. How intentional were you about building culture from day one?
I'm very intentional. I think that's part of the program and part of the reason that I wanted to bring it into like a group setting versus just an individual one-on-one setting was I think as technology progresses, people are getting lonelier and they're looking for a healthy space to make friends and create a community. It's like people who they don't want to go to bars to make friends. It's hard to make friends as adults. So really it was an intentional space of like, not only are you coming here to work out, but you're coming to nourish your mind, body, and your soul, where you're meeting people who are like-minded. You're in the same program. I've got people that are still friends from my first studio. We did a class at like a 65 and up class, and I still see them every once on Facebook. They meet for coffee, and I was just like, that just makes me so happy because it is. It's the world is isolating for a lot of people. So
Yeah. Can you tell me what values are non-negotiable inside your studio?
Um, I we do have a list of core values, but I think, really it's teaching with intention. I do give the fitness side of the class. We do program, we do kind of a universal program where me and my manager do that part of it, but the Pilates side is very much creative, and they have the creative freedom to build their own programs, do whatever they want. And it's just, it's teaching with intention. It's practicing with integrity. It's, we don't allow any kind of like, I don't want to say allow, but we really discourage anybody who has a negative attitude or who, isn't passionate or happy to be here. We really try to just create this environment of like, no, this is like, everybody comes here to be happy and enjoy what they're doing. And, if that's not who you are, then not that we don't want you, we'd like to help you that way, but we hope to influence you and
Yeah, train and have fun.
yeah, yeah.
Can you tell me how do you mentor trainers so they don't just coach bodies but people?
Everybody that has ever come in as a coach for us has started as a member. So they've been
Mm.
part of the community. They've been part of what we do here. And so usually it's we announce we're doing a teacher training. We usually do one once a year, and it comes from within. So it's people that already know the community, that already know our values and understand what we do here and want to be a bigger part of it. So that part comes pretty easy. And we just talk about the experience that they had on the client side. And it's like, what could have made that better? What did you like about your experience here? What kept you here? And like, let's see if we can continue that feeling for everybody else that comes through the door.
Mm. When we talk about experience, you have a lot of experience. So what mistakes did you make early that you now protect others from?
Um, I think my biggest mistake was that I left a big gym and I had a clientele and I thought I have clientele. Like I can just open a business. I had really no plan, really no idea what I was doing. It was just, let's see what happens.
Just executing.
Yeah, just together. I was like, I'll buy some equipment. I've got clients. Let's do this. And so um I think, some of the biggest lessons I've learned, I really like to always have a mentor. I've gone through different coaching programs. I've worked with different people throughout my career. I think having somebody to look up to and somebody who's always been where you are now to just kind of bounce things off of and sometimes just cry to where you go, what am I doing? And they can tell you, no, like I was there at one point, you're going to be okay. I think being easily sold. I was quite the sucker for marketing and the latest and greatest equipment when I first got into the industry. And it was like, I had, print ads and I had this and that. And I was fairly gullible, So I've learned to not be so gullible anymore and really, really pick and choose like who I associate, who I do business with. And I think realizing that now at this point in my career and my business, it's like, no, I'm an asset to you. Like you're not doing me a favor by asking me to be part of this. Like,
Mhm.
yeah. So I think, if I can help people kind of like I said, not have to go through all of that and help them, as we're opening up their Tricor location, like just instill the confidence and the strength that I have now. Like, let me be your mentor for that if you're ever doubting it, but also like let me help build you a foundation of confidence and strength and just know that like you have value.
A lot of people in the business and especially in the fitness industry build businesses that look good but drain them. How do you personally manage energy with long days, clients, leadership, and being a mom?
Um, it hasn't always been easy. I think that the biggest thing that I learned, and it probably was, halfway through this whole process, um, was, you can't let the things that you can't control stress you out and take energy away from you because it's just, you kind of have to learn like what am I gonna give my energy to? And if it's something I have no control over, like I have to just let it go and it's going to play out how it's going to play out, but like letting it take away from my joy and from my sleep and from, the people that are giving me good stuff back, like it's not serving me. So I have to let it go. And that's been I think that was a big mind shift and really, really getting to that point. But it's helped me kind of stay on the positive side and, and also just understanding like it comes in waves. Like sometimes it's great, sometimes it's a struggle, but it always balances out at the end of the day. And it just goes back to that. I'm still grateful for what I do every day, even on the hard days.
Yeah, that's big. To be grateful. I mean, the biggest amount of energy is in purposeful work, and you are doing something with purpose, so it's much easier, definitely.
It is. I think a little bit of being stubborn helps too.
Definitely, definitely, definitely.
Hmm.
Can you tell me what does success means to you now compared to earlier seasons of your life? Anything changes or
Um, it's I think what I've learned, and I think it's just a common trait in entrepreneurs, is that it's never, I don't want to say it's never enough, but it's never done. So it's
Mm.
it's that first studio that I opened. It was about 900 square feet. Uh, it was low ceiling, so if we did anything overhead, like we had to move away from the ceiling fan, and then when I got into that space, the first year or so, I was like, this is great, I'm doing great. And then it was like, okay, but now what? Okay, but now what? And I just, you
Yeah.
just live in that space. And at this point in my life, I'm like, okay, now it's the franchise. And, I want to operate this franchise. I want to grow it into a national brand, maybe even an international brand. Um, and maybe that's my grand finale. Who knows? But I think it's always, you're always going to want to do more and be more and be more successful. And again, it's not that I'm not happy with where I'm at, but I'm always in that space of, okay, how do we continue to progress this? How do we continue to make it better? How do we, continue to be more successful? And again, it's not always about money, which money is, always lovely, but it's just really about, I don't know, this need inside of me to constantly grow and improve and progress.
Mhm.
I feel like what does that say? If you're not growing, you're dying. So I'm not ready to die just yet.
Yeah. Growth mindset. We are young.
We are young, yeah.
Can you tell me what you wish more entrepreneurs understood about balance and fulfillment?
Um, I think balance is a big one. I think finding that space where you can have that growth mindset, but also make sure that you still have time for friends and family and stuff that, brings you joy. I think I was always kind of, I don't want to say forced into it, but being a mom, it was like I didn't really have a choice but to have to say, okay, like this is where my day ends and now I have to go be a mom. I've got to, pick up, drop off, I've got to do all of the things. So it was kind of just part of how I grew in the business, but I've also seen a lot of people who run businesses and they feel like they've got to be working until 1 o'clock in the morning and they're at the studio till 10 o'clock at night and they're mopping the floors and they're doing this. And it's like, you've got to find balance. And I think letting go of control is a big one, is not feeling like you can do everything the best. So you're just going to do everything. Um, that was a big learning point for me, and just delegating and empowering other people to take the things that maybe you don't like so much, maybe you're not as good at and they're better at. um, but yeah, I think that's really where you find fulfillment and balance, is giving up control, learning to delegate, learning to trust other people
Mm.
to understand your dream and understand what you're trying to do. And I think that's a big part of you being able to communicate it and being, inspirational to them, and just telling them like this is what we're trying to do, and then get them excited about your goals and your growth and what we're doing. And now it's a something we're doing together, not just this is mine and this is what I'm doing.
Franchising feels like a natural evolution of your philosophy. What ultimately made you choose franchising over opening, for example, multiple studios yourself?
I mean, that's a very good question, and I've gone back and forth with it a lot of the times. Um, And I ultimately picked franchising because of the reason of, the whole reason that I'm in fitness and wellness is to help other people. And I see franchising as a way to grow the brand and grow the business and grow what I created, but also doing it in a way that I can empower other people to be the owners of these studios and operate them and own them and find fulfillment in that the space for themselves, not just me, running this business empire. I think it's different, and I still get back and forth with different mentors and different coaches, like you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that. But at the end of the day, I built this because I wanted to do that. It's like that's the ultimate way to help people, where it's like massage was helping people, fitness is helping people, mentoring coaches is helping people. But it's like if I could really get people out of, maybe it's a job that they hate, or, a lifestyle that they don't love, it's like, okay, well, let me teach you how to do this. Let me empower you to create something that, brings me a lot of joy, and hopefully it'll do the same for you.
Hmm. When we talk about this franchising, what kind of person is the right fit to own a Tricore studio?
Um, Definitely somebody that's got ambition. You have to have some work ethic. You've got to be ready to put some work in, especially at the beginning. It takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of time to get everything up and running. Not necessarily, you don't have to be, an athlete or in the fitness industry yourself, but definitely it's going to be somebody who at least understands fitness and enjoys it. I ideally would love to see like one of our existing members be one of my first franchisees, somebody that, again, knows the culture, knows the philosophy, knows the method, and wants to take it on their own. Um, yeah. So I think that's really it.
Can you send one message for the people on corporate jobs? If someone is in a corporate job they hate, what would you want them to hear right now?
You're not stuck. You have the freedom to get out of it and create a life that you're in charge of. It's I take vacations when I want, I eat lunch when I want. It's also my job to make sure that everything's in order before I go. But yeah, I've had some beautiful times. My daughter lives overseas, and so I've been able to go and spend a month in Portugal with her and just have that freedom where I think a job would have been like, no, you can't do that. um, so yeah, I think it's the empowering yourself to take control of your life and, be in charge of your life, which is, it's a blessing and a curse at the same time because I feel like sometimes I'm like, okay, well, if I mess this up, I've got nobody else to blame but myself.
Yeah, but that's good.
Yeah, I think I like that more than, I've seen people in corporate jobs that, they make six figures and then overnight it's gone. It's been taken away from them because they get fired, there's layoffs or whatever it is. And it's just like, okay, I think that, we were all kind of raised, at least my generation was raised as like, oh, you get a good job and you have benefits and you have this and you've got 401k and all of that stuff and you've got, it was sold as security. And, I feel like my family, I'm the first entrepreneur in my family, and they were always kind of like, oh, but you have no safety net. It's like, it feels unstable. It feels scary. And it's like, no, it feels scary. It's like dedicating 20 years of my life to some corporation that'll let me go like overnight. And like, and now what? Like, at least, like I said, I'm in control of my destiny here.
And you love to bet on yourself.
I do.
Where do you see Tricor in 3 to 5 years? Not just in location, but in impact.
An impact. I would definitely like to see 3 to 5 years, like 50 to 75 franchise locations is really where I'd like to see it go. My 10-year plan is to hit that 100 franchise mark. Yeah, and I think just I just want to see it become a thing. I think it provides something so beautiful and something amazing that it's just like I just want to share this love with everybody.
Yeah, definitely makes sense. Uh, the last question I want to ask you about the AI and AI fitness coaches. What do you think about the future of the fitness industry?
Um, I think it's at least for the fitness industry part that I'm part of, I think it's very human and you can't take that away. They've done some amazing things, Peloton and these mirrors and stuff where people can, do it on their own and they've got these coaches, these virtual coaches, but it's the human connection, it's the camaraderie, it's the fun. I don't, I think that it can definitely improve on the operations side. It'll help us as operators. But as far as like feeling like AI is going to take over the fitness industry, I just don't really see that happening.
Yeah, I can agree. I can agree on that, definitely. Uh, for everyone listening, if this conversation resonated, I highly recommend visiting tricorefit.com, right?
Correct.
You'll find classes, personal training, information about the Tricor philosophy and franchise opportunity. Uh, Stephanie, do you want to share anything for the end? L- the last
Um,
message for.
I feel like I said a lot today. No, I appreciate you reaching out, and I love to share my message. And like I said, I like the opportunity that you're getting in front of your audience and just being able to share the philosophies of Tricor and the goals, and hope maybe we'll find somebody that's listening that wants to be part of the growth in the franchise.
Stephanie, thank you for the work you're doing and the lives you're changing. Thank you very much for being on the podcast.
Thank you for inviting me.
Elevate yourself. Empower others. Welcome to Coach Approach Podcast.